and welcome back to blackdoctor.org. I am your host, Dr. Renee, and I know you guys are used to seeing me on Thursdays, but today we have a very special show. In case you didn't know, it is Black Breastfeeding Week. Black Breastfeeding Week for 2022 was August 25th to the 31st. So today is the last day, and one of our lovely experts will tell us why we had to start having Black Breastfeeding Week and hopefully how long they've had it, because obviously it hasn't been around forever. But I'm really excited because tonight we have two lactation consultants. One is also a pediatrician. And then we also have one of our lactation consultants happens to also be a doula. And then we have an amazing physician who is also a weight loss coach who is a Black breastfeeding mom. So I am so excited to chat with these ladies this evening. Can you please, everyone, do me a huge favor? Share the broadcast, because I know that you know somebody who is either pregnant or thinking about getting pregnant, and they need this information. So please, please, please share the broadcast. Let us know where you're watching from, and let's get to it. So here we go. I will introduce my guests. So we have Erica Millender, who is a lactation consultant as well as a doula, and she owns the company Doulas Do here in the Metro Detroit area. And then Dr. Kersha Pennicott is a pediatrician, a lactation consultant. And if you tell me what that BL, whatever, that'd be great.
IBCLC, International Board Certified Lactation Consultant.
Thank you. And then Dr. Josiah Charles, who is a family medicine doctor, a weight loss coach, and the mom to a fabulous little guy who just turned 1, and she is still breastfeeding. So let's start with somebody please explain why we have to have Black Breastfeeding Week. I think, Erica, that'd be great for you.
Well, thank you very much. And I know that everybody in this room can speak to it, especially Dr. Kersha, you being an IBCLC, you know that history. 9 years ago, really, they wanted to start just mainly focusing on the fact that Black women and women of color really do breastfeed, but because of a lot of trauma associated with it, a lot of obstacles in terms of racism associated with it, a lot of Black women just were not getting the support. They were hearing a lot about why they should. Well, I'll just be very bold and say that Black breast milk fed this country and built the country. And so,
I mean, in case y'all missed Roots or something, I'm not sure if you missed it, but you know, those ladies not only were raising the children, but they were feeding them with the breast milk from their bodies.
Yes. So Black breast milk fed this country in its infancy, and it has continued to do so. But that has been kind of snuffed and subdued, and it's been taken away for so many reasons. And so Black Breastfeeding Week 1 is a shout to say, hey, this is ours. We do this. This is ours to continue. And this, if you don't have support, this is where you can find support. What does that look like? What are your obstacles? Who do you need? What do you need? Who is there to support you? Who looks like you? Who is doing what you need to have happening? And I'm a lactation counselor.
Excuse me.
And no, but that's okay because I'm actually studying for my IBCLC. So, you know, that is like one of the highest certifications you can have that specializes in lactation alone. And so to be able to have that international board certification, to be able to go anywhere and share support and have all of that knowledge and awareness for people who understand and look like you and know that you want to do it as a Black woman is incredible. So that is
why we have this week.
Mm-hmm.
So, Dr. Kersha, I wanted you to go ahead and speak. What did you have?
I just wanted to echo everything Erica just said, and also that this year is unique because it's the 10th anniversary of the Black Breastfeeding Week. So it's really, a wonderful accomplishment. Every year they have different themes, and so this theme was basically a strong foundation, celebrating the 10th year. So I think it's just a wonderful way that our community can come together around supporting our families and kind of destigmatizing breastfeeding, especially in our communities.
I've noticed on on my social media. I saw lots of pictures and, you know, different posts about it on Facebook and Instagram, just randomly. So that was, you know, was really good.
Yes. And the great thing is, you know, they've got all these hashtags. So moms can see all these hashtags, follow it, see other women that look like them breastfeeding out in the open. Look at that. Oh, I love that. Yes, it's true. Women of color breastfeed too. I love that. That's actually a really beautiful shirt.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just a wonderful, positive time. And I think it's always very fitting that we end off the whole month of National Breastfeeding Month.
And then I want Dr. Kershaw to tell what are some of the amazing benefits of breastfeeding?
Well, breast milk in and of itself is tailor-made to the baby, right? So it's a really unique substance that can't be duplicated or replicated. We know from studies that moms can pass on what we call passive immunity to the baby. So it can pass on protective antibodies. So what that means is those are proteins that can help protect the baby against different types of infection. Passive means that it's temporary in the sense that it lasts for as long as the mom is breastfeeding, basically. But it's something that moms can offer, especially when the babies are not vaccinated yet. So most babies haven't received their first full set of vaccines until they're 2 months of age, and that's just the first step. So it's really crucial in that, especially that 2-month period, that they can benefit from that. We even know from moms who've gotten the COVID vaccine, they studied it and they showed that the antibodies have shown up in the breast milk. So it's something that's really cool and unique. It also has benefits for the mom as well. You know, in babies, it shows that it's reduced the risk of having certain types of GI infections, ear infections, respiratory infections. So it's just really wonderful all the way around. But we do know that while it's natural to breastfeed, it's not necessarily a light bulb switch. Okay, you gave birth, now you're curious to know about breastfeeding. So that's where the support from the community, from the mom's healthcare workers really comes into play, from doulas, from lactation consultants, everyone in the community wrapping around that family to give them the support that they need if that's their goal to breastfeed.
So my question is, and maybe Dr. Josiah can answer this, when you decided you were going to breastfeed, did it naturally come to you, one? And two, if it didn't, who was there to help you?
That is a great question. I decided I wanted to breastfeed because I just felt like I've waited so long to have a child, and I was like, this is one way to really strengthen that bond with him. And of course, for all the benefits that Dr. Kershaw mentioned, not to mention it does reduce the risk of certain cancers in the woman when she breastfeeds as well. So our story is a little bit different. It did not come naturally. He actually ended up spending a week in the NICU, which is a neonatal intensive care unit, after being born. So even though in the first 24 hours, we did meet a lactation consultant and tried to latch, when he was transferred to that children's hospital, we had to start all over again once he came home. So what really helped me was having a lactation consultant in the hospital. It's interesting, it's a children's hospital, but they had a certificate for moms to help me pump, to build my supply, start with the colostrum, which is the initial milk, and then to have milk so that he was getting that even while he was in the hospital. And then when we got home, I decided to make the investment to have an in-house or a person who comes to the home to do lactation consulting. So the insurance reimbursed it. So that's something folks can take a look at.
I was going to ask about that.
Yes, they did. It wasn't a full reimbursement, but it was still worth the investment to have somebody come, and especially after having a newborn baby, you're getting up, you don't want to drive somewhere, and then to actually have sessions in the house to work on the latch and making sure he's getting a proper suck, and he's having, and she was also a specialist as occupational therapist to really check in his strength of his suck so that the latch was proper. So I was very determined to get help with that. So yeah, and then in addition to that, while at work, having all the new technologies with pumps to be able to pump while at work, even the wireless pumps, I think all that helped support me to be able to feed him for a whole year.
And also, can you speak to the pumps? What about with getting paid for? Because, you know, I know that we're trying to remove all barriers. So let's make sure that everyone knows that this is possible.
Awesome. So I would say most major insurance companies will cover the cost, not even a reimbursement, but straight up cover up front the price for a hospital-like pump. And usually those you have to plug into the wall. There are some brands that have battery operated, but they're pretty effective and just as close to what you find in the hospital setting. Excuse me. Then you have the newer ones that are wireless. where you just really just put it into your bra. I joked and said I had like almost a Madonna bra when I had my pumps in. Yeah, like, so kind of like cone shape, if you will. Yeah, cones, right? But that allowed me to be completely hands-free. Like there were no wires. And then the hybrids, really depending on the person's budget, there are different hacks you can do where you have a wired pump, but you can make it wireless, or you can have things as minimal. So you can, if you're at home to move around, or if you're in a hospital setting like I am, where either I stay in the lactation room, and thank goodness that we have those supports and those laws in place to have lactation rooms, or if I decided to actually walk around and move about, they were so quiet, no one knew I had them on. But to answer the main question, yes, insurance will cover the price for one pump with parts. Depending on the plan, if you have a second child, maybe 2 or 3 years later, you can replace all those, again, covered by the insurance company.
Wow. Okay. That's really good. Now, I guess my question is, does every hospital that has delivering moms, do they have lactation consultants?
No.
No. So unfortunately, that's one of the areas that's a big issue. And we've seen from a lot of different studies that when you have hospitals that are located in areas that are more underserved, that tend to be more Black and brown communities, you tend to have deficits in lactation consultants basically being there. So a lot of times they might have like floor nurses who maybe have been given some education, but it's not always necessarily the same as having someone who's fully just dedicated just to that. And even in special circumstances like Dr. Josia had, where she was, her baby was in the NICU, that's a very specialized circumstance as well. So it's very critical to have those people embedded into the team, but a lot of times they're not available, or maybe they're only able to check in once because there's so few of them and they have to cover so many folks, they only get to pop in very briefly. So that's definitely something that's a bit of a challenge.
And just like you said, Dr. Kershaw, it's in those underserved medical spaces, you will likely have fewer, if any, support, and certainly not often support that reflects the community that they're serving. And I know that 9 times women or Black families are offered formula 9 times more than other families. And the fact that they don't have as much systemic support in those spaces and are offered artificial milk is really a travesty. So just getting support, even just like doulas, because I do have, in order to be certified to be a doula, we have to have a certain amount of lactation training, and pursuing it even deeper helps to improve outcomes. One of the things that I did, I had a client who did just have a child who's in the NICU, and we helped, we hand expressed so that she could get it straight down to her baby. Before her pump was in, she was able to hand express first milk, get it to her baby in the neonatal intensive care unit. And that made so many changes. But just having somebody in the room, not having to wait for the IBCLC who's on staff or having the nurse come in, but just having somebody there who can support and get that milk to that baby is so important, especially in the underserved population, which can be in a really cool hospital or a not so cool hospital, because it's the population, not necessarily just the hospital.
And even something seemingly as simple as that, as teaching a mom how to do hand expression. Most people think, okay, the pump is better. Well, actually, we know that in the early days, hand expression is a better way to express colostrum rather than the pump. And in our early term babies or our low weight babies who are at risk for things like necrotizing enterocolitis, that's a very long word. It basically just means a very serious gut infection that can be very life-threatening. Studies have shown that breast milk is protective against that. So it's really life-saving interventions that happen when we get the care to the moms that need it.
You're right. Like they didn't have pumps back in the day. I didn't think about that, but yeah, they had to, and they had to make it happen.
Exactly.
So, Dr. Josia, you posted the other day on Instagram that your child turned 1 and you're still breastfeeding. So, one, because a lot of people, another reason why they don't breastfeed is because they're worried about what other people think. And I know you, so I know you're not worried about that. But what, is there anyone that has said something to you that you're like, whatever?
Yes, definitely. Not so, and believe it or not, it's family.
I knew that. That's
Right?
what I was gonna say. I had a feeling that that's what it was.
It's family. Actually, the time that I had the lactation specialist come in house, one of my relatives was here visiting and was surprised. They're like, "You have someone here to help you breastfeed?" I was like, "Yes, it's really that important to me." And let me be clear. If the child needs to get donor milk or get formula, we want that baby fed. Okay.
Right.
I know there's some who say breast is best. No, fed is best, is my opinion. Feed that baby needs to be fed, right?
And there's
So let's
different
be clear.
reasons why people cannot breastfeed. We'll talk about that later. Excuse me.
Absolutely. I just want to be clear about that. But I said, as much as I can, I want to at least give this a try before I do anything else. Because back to what Miss Erica shared, I actually received containers of formula even before my son got home. They just came and showed up at my house because I guess the insurance company knew I was expecting, and must be some database somewhere. And I will say this: there was one point where I lost my supply. I had a stash in the freezer, and the freezer thawed out. We ended up using that formula temporarily. So just kind of want to put that out there. But yeah, it was a family member who was like, "Are you sure?" And then I had another family member who said, "How long do you plan to do this?" Because we were actually going to have our first kind of weekend getaway in Valentine's Day. They're like, "Oh, by the time you come back, your son won't want to latch," which was not the case. He was more than happy to be like, "Oh, mommy's back." Right. And so I think when I first started, I was hoping to get to a year, but it sounded daunting. And I just said, let's just take it day by day. And having the support of the lactation, the support of my partner, being able to have all the knowledge and communities on Facebook. There are actually Facebook groups of moms who are breastfeeding, and they're giving tips to one another. There's even some as specialized as those just for doctor moms, so that's a cool thing of technology. I think those things helped me to go day by day to be able to get to a year and to get to the place where, yes, I don't care what others say, or even to be able to be in a restaurant as the picture I shared and just pop out a boob and feed my kid.
And it's so funny how people talk about how, oh my God, that's so offensive. It's not offensive when people are watching you eat. So.
Right. And I think, exactly. I think, breasts are so sexualized in our society that forget that, part of their anatomical function is to feed. Not everyone will use it to feed, but that's part of the function. So it's, I'm so glad that you got that support that you needed, because a lot of times moms are shamed into, I can't feed if I'm at the park, and they're stressed about getting the coverage just right, or, it's really important that we have support and laws in place to protect people to be able to feed whenever they need to feed their child, and to also be protected at work. I mean, you brought up a great point about how you sometimes had wearable pumps or you had a lactation room where you could actually go to. A lot of times, moms are like told, oh, go to the bathroom and pump. Like, who wants to do that and be in a dirty space? It's disgusting. Right. Nobody would want to do that. So it's really important that you
wouldn't eat your lunch in the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly. They give adequate breaks for you to pump, that you're given a clean space to do so, and that you're encouraged to do it. Because a lot of moms, once they go back to work, that's where it presents a big challenge, where they end up not going as long as they initially wanted to, because it's just so frustrating for them.
And or there's a lot of stress in the situation, so they don't pump for as long, or their supply goes down because they're overly stressed about everything.
And it's illegal not to provide a space for breastfeeding, and the bathroom is not it.
Right. Yeah, I know a lot of the airports have spaces for even the people flying, but I'm sure that they also have spaces for the employees as well. But I know that a lot of the airports I've flown through have had special spaces for, if somebody would like some privacy, they have a place they can go and they could breastfeed, they could pump or whatever they need to do. I will share this. My mom breastfed me, and she was, my mother is, she's very well read. She also was a clinician. She was a respiratory therapist and taught respiratory therapy. So she's, a medical professional, and she she knew, this is what is the right thing to do, and this is what she's going to do. My mother, like most people, had a maternity leave of 3 months. So she breastfed me for 3 months, thought I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And that was what I got. And so anyone that knows me knows that I have severe food allergies. And my mother's physician told her that if you breastfeed my sister for a year, she won't be like Renee. Lo and behold, my mother made it happen for a year for my sister, and my sister is not allergic to a morsel of food. Now, there are no scientific studies to say that this is proven to work or not work, but I would just tell you that worked for us. And I will never forget, at Cook County Hospital, there was a brochure in labor and delivery that said that if you breastfeed for, I think it said 6 months or more, child was less likely to have allergies. And my mother was like, really? And she was like, you should have brought it home. I forgot. But I remember seeing that when I was a med student, was like, wow. And so I know, like I said, it worked for my sister. Had she not, who knows, but it worked for my sister, and I have food allergies. So, I don't know. I know that I've had other relatives, because allergies are my family. So we had other relatives that, they weren't breastfed, but the children were just wrought with allergies, not necessarily food allergies, but just even environmental as an infant and stuff. So,
Yeah, it's not an exact science. There is some evidence that maybe it might reduce that. I do want to just point out that it's not a failing of your mother that you end up getting allergies. So I don't want anyone to, feel bad if that's a scenario that happens. But we definitely know that there are benefits. It's not always we can't always exactly know the full effect of it. But just wanted to point that.
I will say this: my son has only had one cold.
Wow.
So could that be, and again, it's, we don't know if that's correlation or causation and have you, so we don't know if that's, and he's been around people. So it's not so much, okay, he's been in this bubble, so to speak, but he's only had one. And that was around the time I actually tested positive for COVID. He had some sniffles, and that's been it the whole year.
And it's a miracle of the whole breast milk dynamic, because I think one of the most fascinating things to me in learning, and I have doctors in the room, so you can all check me, but that your body, when you breastfeed, reads the cells that are being transferred through the breast. And so whatever your baby has, your body says, oh, think you're fighting something here. Let's go ahead and make some antibodies that baby has. And then so with that next feeding, the milk is producing antibodies tailor-made for whatever your baby is fighting.
Yeah. A lot of times what also is happening is, when a baby gets sick, a lot of times they might have runny nose, coughing, and you maybe have a sniffle or something like that, like very mild. So a lot of times what happens is, the mom gets exposed to this very same virus. And so she starts, developing antibodies, and, she might have encountered that virus before. And so she's had them already there. And so that's another way that it can happen. And so that's just another great benefit from breastfeeding for sure.
Yeah, I was just going to add to it's another part of that like cosmic bond, if you will, between mother and baby. And we have, scientific explanations to it, but also to like you're sensing something with the child, and your milk will respond to it. And another related way is also the supply you give for your child. So the more the child nurses, there's a feedback loop where the body says, hey, we need to make more. So it's really, it says, instead of supply and demand, it's demand and supply. So now that my son is 1, nursing right now is more for comfort. It's more morning and night versus when we were really in the thick of it, I was pumping about every 4 hours or nursing every 4 hours. So the supply has gently gone down to match what he needs right now.
And what about your nutrition?
Nutrition is a key thing. It's an important thing. And of course, I believe the other two will chime in on that too. I would say at the very beginning, because he was a NICU baby and he was born early, I was much more strict on it than I am now. I pretty much eat everything. When I say strict, like I was thinking about what I was eating, but at the same time, I wanted to expose him to as many things as possible. So I still had, the peanut butter, the eggs, the shellfish, the things that are allergens, because I wanted him to get exposed to those. I would say I even took it a step further. I didn't always sterilize my bottles. The first time right on the box, but afterwards I was like, this child's gonna get exposed and get used to everything, and clearly we're doing something okay because he's very rambunctious.
So, what do they tell moms as far as what they need to do for breastfeeding? Because I know I've heard you have to, have so much water and all these different things.
I'm sorry. I did forget to add, I do take a prenatal vitamin. I've been taking that since I was pregnant. So I do take a prenatal, and the particular one I also take a fish oil / DHA supplement. So having a complete multivitamin is important if you're while pregnant, and continue while nursing, so that the child's receiving it. Breastfed babies want to make sure sometimes that they also have a vitamin D supplement as well, until they start taking solids. So we've been doing that, but now fading that out now that he's taking some solids. And of course, hydration is key. I would say the first couple months, I would be extremely thirsty. In fact, I have my water here next to me now. So I make a point to drink at least half a gallon. I try to get to close to a gallon a day, but that's just me based on my weight. Everyone's going to be different, but definitely want to increase that water intake if you're breastfeeding, because you're giving away your fluids.
Yeah, so I just wanted to touch on some points that she made. So vitamin D is very important because it isn't very naturally high in breast milk. So, and usually your pediatrician is guiding you through this, because either the baby can directly get a supplement, or if the mom is pretty close to doing exclusive breastfeeding, the moms can take a certain amount. And the pediatrician will tell you how much, and they can get it that way. And one of the biggest things that I always try to stress to mom is, you're not trying to have like a super strict diet. I want you to eat healthy. I want you to, if you want your sweets, you can have some sweets. You want to, you want to make sure you get a wide variety in your diet. But there's no specific like breast milk or breastfeeding diet rather. And it's important just to eat varied amounts of food. And it is really important to not restrict yourself from foods that are considered highly allergenic, like eggs and shellfish and all that kind of stuff. And we even counsel that when the child starts to eat solids, it's actually studies have shown the earlier you introduce those foods, you reduce the risk that the babies are going to become allergic to those foods. So all those things are super important. Definitely hydration. I say every time you're feeding the baby, get your little cup with your little straw, and you need to be drinking too, because it's really important. You're drinking for yourself and of course for your supply as well. The last thing I'll add is one of the biggest questions I get is, okay, how do I make more milk? Like what supplements can I take, or what can I do? And really the biggest thing is extracting milk. Again, she kind of touched on the supply and demand. The more you extract milk from your body and the more frequently you do it, it does send those chemical signals to your brain, say, hey, we're being utilized. We need to make more. That's going to be the key ticket, not necessarily different types of supplements.
Everything they said. There's so many things that I hear. Oh, should I eat more of this? Should I eat more of that? I heard that this helps with milk production. Milk is being produced and milk is being supplied based on how much milk you're moving outside of your body. And stay hydrated, because you're putting liquid out, you're producing and you're letting it go. So I say for my pregnant families, you're not eating for two, you're eating for you, because your baby is going to get what your baby needs. So make sure you're feeding yourself. Eat a healthy diet being what you habitually eat. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. Eat the good things, because guess what? It's going to get in that breast milk. And if you like curry, you want your child to like curry, eat curry so that they can say, I remember that. So, be very true to you and what you eat and taking care of your body, because your baby's going to get it. But there is no magic food that's going to help with production.
So you mean all these lactation wafers, and
they taste good. Don't get me wrong. I brought them. I'm not giving any commercial heads up to any of them, but I've had some of the bars. It's a good granola bar. It's a good chocolate bar. I took it for what it was. Even the teas, tea is tea. So if you want to have it, but don't rely on that to be what you need.
So I have a question because I just heard what Dr. Kershaw said. So I have severe food allergies. And so I obviously I'm allergic to top 8+. So these are things that I am just not going to eat. So if I was to decide to breastfeed one day, would that be a horrible thing?
No.
Okay.
I mean,
My,
breast milk
my
is breast
children
milk,
wouldn't be exposed to that.
Right. So if there are foods that a mom can't eat because she's actually allergic to them, of course, she's not going to eat them. But she's still providing breast milk that's still providing lots of benefits and antibodies to the baby. So absolutely, there's no issue with that.
Okay.
And if your baby has an allergy to something, and I'm so glad you said, Dr. Kershaw, not to put it on the mom. Your baby may have an allergy whether you do or you don't.
Got it.
And so it will manifest. And sometimes it's easier to to kind of figure it out and backtrack, because they'll say, okay, what are you eating? Maybe we can cut that out. And if things kind of balance out, then everything, is pretty okay. But it's nice to just know that even in you modifying and paying attention to what you're feeding your baby, you're still nourishing, but you can still figure things out before they get too far gone into eating solid foods.
And one of the things I always want to stress to parents is, before you drive yourself crazy, like eliminating 1,000 things, please talk to your pediatrician, because 9 times out of 10, or I can't quote a specific number, it's usually unnecessary. Or if an elimination diet needs to happen, they can guide you through it based on actual evidence. So just don't stop, randomly cutting stuff out of your diet. Talk to your child's doctor.
Perfect. So is it true that breastfeeding can help the mother to lose weight?
Jump in here.
Helped me.
It did not help me. I think it's really individualized, because I was given that information and the scale wasn't moving. I mean, you do have this other part where you're taking in more calories for your supply, right? You're tired, you're probably not moving as much, especially in the immediate postpartum period. So everyone's different on how their hormones work. Some people, it just comes off. Some folks like me, it was like, nope, we're going to stand firm like a snug blanket. So it took a little more extra work to release that weight.
Okay. You just always hear it. So I just wondered.
Yeah. I mean, I think for some women, it's true that it does help them, lose weight. But I think she brought up a good point that it's very individualized, right? I think all of our metabolisms are different, and that's okay. For some people, they see the benefits, some they don't, but either one is okay.
So we hear about donor milk, and I don't think I remember hearing about donor milk until maybe at least 15 years ago. So how does that work, and where does one go to make certain that it's not bad? I had a friend that adopted, and she knew that she was going to be adopting an infant, and she went somewhere and she had posted a picture or something. She had all this donor milk that she had, was frozen and waiting for the baby to come home. And I was just like, wow, she was so prepared. So how does that work? Where does one find it if it's not, their sister who happens to be pregnant at the same time or something?
There are many different sources. Because I looked, actually, when I had my oversupply, I was looking at becoming a donor. So you have donor banks throughout the country that will have people go through a rigorous process of bringing in the milk, and they even pasteurize it or do other things to treat the milk, which is, I would say, the best way to go, or at least the first line to go. Some hospitals will have their own donor banks as well.
Oh, wow.
And then you have your mom communities where someone's, down the street, or, in the mom group, or you were all in a birthing class together. And then they say, hey, I'll give you some of my milk. And the recipient may or may not choose to pasteurize or what have you. So it's easy to find it now. You can go online and find these websites. I'm sorry.
No, go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, we have that term donor milk, which is a pretty new term. And again, it's like for so long, a lot of the community was doing that anyway, where you had, maybe you had a grandmother who had lots of kids, and if something was going on, she may have helped nurse her grandchildren, or aunts, sisters. So in the community, it's really age old. But right now, because we are very much aware of things going on and we may not know everybody, they do have some methods where it's much more controlled. But if you do an informal donor, you do have community resources where you can do that. And it can be expensive if you do go through a bank.
That's what I was going to mention, is that it can be very, very expensive if you go through a bank. So that's something, it's not necessarily a way that you're going to supply like 100% of a baby's needs. Usually it's
attainable, right?
Yeah, in terms of being attainable.
Wow. Okay. Very.
And then, and to what Ms. Erica alluded to, with the community, there are ways to relactate. There are sometimes, if someone hasn't nursed in a long time, or in, say, the case of someone who's adopting, there are ways they can connect with a lactation consultant to start lactation or to relactate.
So for either adoptive mothers, it's often called induced lactation. So there's actually protocols for that, to try and get the mom who's not the actual birth parent to start lactating. That it takes some time, and it may not work for everyone. And even if they do produce milk, it might not be, maybe 25% or whatever. But if that's truly their goal, that's something that is a possibility, and they should talk to their doctor about that.
I had no idea. Wow. Who knew? So can we talk about those people that, just, they tried and they just can't get enough milk. And it happens to people I know, because I've read stories recently even.
Yeah, so there are, different medical reasons why people can't breastfeed. So they might have what we call hypoplastic breasts. So their breasts actually don't enlarge during pregnancy, and they just don't have enough glands to produce milk. So like I said, there's a whole range of that. I don't want to get too deep into that, but that is something that happens. And so I think the biggest thing that I always want to emphasize, especially for those parents, is that we don't want them to feel like a deep sense of shame, which is often what happens. They feel like they've almost failed as a mother, because like, this is the basic thing I should be able to do for my baby, but why is my body not doing it? Why is it not happening? And it can come with a real sense of almost like loss, even though you had this child, but
right.
If you had your mind so set on this, forming that bond with your child, it can be very disappointing. So, I think it's always important to remember the mental health aspect of the parents is really critical. This is a very important time where postpartum depression, they're at risk for that. There's a lot of things happening. So it's very important to support these parents, to really lift them up and know that, no, you're not a failure if you can't physically breastfeed. Or if you can breastfeed, but you decided that you've come to the end, like if you wanted to go longer, but then you felt like, what, I tried and I gave it my all and I feel like I'm ready to transition. That's okay too. It is.
Absolutely.
It's important to say that.
And I mean, they do have obviously some really great formulas on the market for those that, for whatever reason cannot. I guess my next question is, people who've had breast cancer and maybe they had just a lumpectomy, can they still breastfeed?
It depends on how much breast tissue was removed. If it was just a partial, then yes, so we certainly see where those, parents have been able to do it, maybe with like, say, reduced amounts. So, maybe they're able to produce 75%, I'm making up numbers, but 75% of what their original volume would have been. Sometimes even in parents who have, both breasts, we notice that there might be one breast that tends to produce more. We kind of make jokes that, that's a slacker boob over there. That doesn't make as much. But yeah, so there's a ton of different variations. Another thing is women who've had plastic surgery, right?
That's what I was about to ask.
I was going to jump there, yeah.
Yeah, so that's another thing that we see. And depending on the type of surgery they've had, sometimes some of the ducts are transected from the surgery. So it's also important to know how long was their surgery previously. Was it 5 years ago? Was it 10 years ago? So there's a bunch of different variables that impact whether the mom will be able to fully successfully breastfeed.
Right.
And actually, a similar segue now, since we're talking about the plastic surgery or the, mastectomies, the size of your breasts have no correlation to how much milk you make. A lot of people think, oh, I have double D's, or I'm an A cup, or I'm a B cup. Am I going to make less? That's not necessarily true. It's because that's your fat tissue, your adipose tissue. That's very different from your mammary glands. So you can have someone who is a or B cup probably make more milk than someone who say is an F cup, right? So that's something that many people think the size of the breast matter, but it really doesn't.
Absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. Is there anything else you guys can think of that we need to tell the audience to maybe there's somebody watching that is pregnant and trying to figure out, should I do this? Should I not? You know, is there anything else we should share with them? We'll start with you, Erica.
I would say really dig deep into finding your lactation support in your community before you get into certain medical spaces, because there aren't a lot of people, present company totally excluded, but there sometimes just aren't a lot of medical professionals who know a lot. And because it's not in their comfort zone, they may not offer a lot of support or resources. And so know what kinds of questions you can go into those spaces with. Like, how comfortable are you waiting to give formula? If I want to wait 24 hours, and just try colostrum only, how comfortable are you with that? So having a doctor who is on board with helping you try to get as many calories into that baby with your body as possible, or someone who says, no, we're going to do formula right out the bat, just knowing things like that. So you don't even have to be disappointed in your relationship or figure out, oh no, here we are. Do I have to sneak this? But just having some questions, being able to go in and knowing what you want to do, and having your support lined up ready for you. So even when you say, you know what, I tried, but now I'm tired and I'm sore. Am I a bad person if I just kind of give my baby some formula? Absolutely not. Here, do you want me to hold your baby while you take a nap, and then we can start over in 2 hours or tomorrow? Just having support to make sure that you understand this is a journey. This is not a plate. It's not just a meal. This is a journey, and we want to make sure that it's a journey that's bringing joy, however that looks.
Yeah.
Now, my question, the questions that you're asking, are we asking the pediatrician or the OBGYN?
Yes.
Pediatrician?
You're whoever is supporting you during your child bearing, rearing, and feeding, you can go into those spaces asking those questions. And definitely have somebody there who can support you in even coming up with questions to ask. I know one of the things that we try to do is have community roundups where we say, okay, these are some questions you can take into your next prenatal appointment. These are some questions you can take when you go to the pediatrician.
Gotcha.
These are some questions you can take when you go see your fertility specialist. What are some of the things? How are they going to support you with your breastfeeding journey? Do they know anyone who can support you on the other side as you're preparing? What are some things that I should avoid doing if I do want to breastfeed? Case in point, if there's something that you want to do that might alter the tissues in your breasts, do I do that now? Or if I do that now, what are some of the risks? What are some of the benefits, long-term, short-term? So just being able to equip people with questions to ask going in spaces. Not a clinician. Erica is not a clinician. So there's nothing I will ever diagnose, and there's nothing that I'll ever say, oh, this is what's going to work best for you. What I will say is, here's some questions you can ask your clinician. And then whatever they say, I'll help support you through it. That was a lot, but that was.
Oh, that's so good.
That's good.
Yes. I'll go next. So you brought up a great point. I think for me, I would say the two pillars are early education and support. So I love, Dr. Renee, you asked OBGYN or pediatrician, and I was like, both. It's a whole continuum. We take off the handoff from the OBGYN, but while you're going to those prenatal visits, let's say, hey, I've thought about it. I plan to breastfeed. What should I be thinking about? And, when you're giving birth, there's so much going on that it's hard to then grasp everything that you need to know. So if you start learning about what will be helpful to start a successful breastfeeding relationship during your pregnancy, it takes a lot of the weight off, a lot of the pressure off. So learning about things about what colostrum is, and it comes in the first couple of days, and then your milk comes in, because I can't tell you, when I used to round in the hospital, how many moms at 24 hours, my milk isn't in it. I'm like, it's not going to be just yet, because it's just point, but it's okay because it's super nutrient dense. So all these little tips and educational points are really important to try to get beforehand. And if your partner can also hear this information, it's really important as well. And that kind of lends itself into the support system, having the people around you who are really going to help lift you up. If they have to wash your pump parts, if they have to wash the bottles, if they have to bring you a little warm compress because you're about to massage before you do hand expression, bring you water, all those things are key. This is a team sport. It's not individual. So that's really key. So those would be the two things that I would stress.
Can I say one more thing? And you said it, Dr. Josia, you said it, Dr. Kirsch, you said it. Breastfeeding is probably one of the most natural things that you can ever do, and also one of the most challenging learned behaviors you will ever have to practice, ever. So giving people that space and having the support just to keep going, to me, is so important. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Dr.
I want to echo what everyone said, and it's about support. And the beautiful thing of living in the time we live in is that you can get it virtually. So even if you don't have anyone in your physical area, you can get there. There are plenty of groups online, whether it's through Facebook, through Instagram, through La Leche League, for example. There are so many.
My mom called back 45 years. I turned 46 yesterday. 46 years ago, my mother, that's who she contacted.
Yeah, I mean, we have so many resources available to you to be able to get that community to ask the questions. There are books. I mean, it's easier now to obtain those things than probably before. So I just echo that. Getting support is going to be what's going to help you get through your goals and then some.
Okay, so now we're going to go in reverse. So Dr. Josia, please tell people about your business and how they can contact you, and Dr. Kersha, and then Erica. And I know everyone has social media that I did not collect ahead of time because I'm not that smart. And I'm going to try and type these things in real quickly. Go ahead.
All right. So as Dr. Renee mentioned, I am Dr. Josia. I am a board certified family physician. I am a weight loss coach. I am found on Instagram at Dr. Josia, DrJosya. Same thing on Facebook. You can email me, hello@drjosia.com. I am probably one of the few physicians who creates customized weight loss programs without pills, without supplements, so that you lose the weight once and for all.
Okay.
Nice. Great. So again, I'm Dr. Kersha Pennicott. I'm a board certified pediatrician and a lactation consultant. You can find me on YouTube at Dr. Pennicott. It's basically the spelling of my name, and also on Instagram, the same.
Awesome.
Okay. I am Erica Millender, and I am a birth and postpartum doula and a Lamaze certified childbirth educator. And you can find my information at Pinky Rose 1908 or Erica's Doula Do on Instagram.
Here we go.
Thank you.
I forgot the S.
You forgot the S? I don't.
Erica's. Oh, I got it right. So you guys, please follow these ladies, and I'm going to also put their stuff in the post when we finish. I'll make sure I put everyone's handles so you can go follow them, but please follow them. Dr. Kersha does some amazing YouTube videos. I've watched them myself. I subscribe. So please check out her YouTube videos. And Dr. Josie has been posting really great IG reels, and she is taking on clients. So if you need to lose weight, and I'm telling you, there's lots of benefits to it, please, please, please. Coaches are really amazing, you guys. So if you can do it. And then Erica, she unfortunately is not going to leave the state, I don't think, but maybe. Okay. But yeah, she is an amazing doula, and so you guys, if you need those services, especially in the Metro Detroit area, please make sure you contact her. But I know that she has a network of people. So if you are interested and you need someone wherever you're at, contact her, because she can probably connect you with somebody that looks like you, because representation is important, I always say. And I remember distinctly as a student on L&D in Cook County, the lactation ladies were both white, but they were the sweetest ladies. But obviously Cook County, if anyone watched the TV show ER, didn't look like these ladies. Most of the patients looked like us. But they were very nice, and I will say that these ladies were on our team. So they were wonderful and did the best that they possibly could do. But Southeast Michigan IBCLCs of color. Let me try and put that.
And I also want to, and these are people that I volunteer with. It's a group of all women of color who started their IBCLC group, and they have virtual meetups, workshops on Saturdays at 3 p.m. And you show up, you ask questions. Sometimes they have counselors in those meetings. So sometimes it might be lactation. Sometimes it is a little bit of a, hey, I think there might be something going on there. But it's women who are finding community, and it's absolutely incredible. And these are all women who represent the community who have done this.
So this is 3 p.m. Eastern. So really, if it's virtual, anyone anywhere can join. So definitely make sure you guys look them up and check it out. Yeah. So ladies, thank you so much for joining us this evening and helping me to celebrate Black Breastfeeding Week again.
I'm following you all. I'm following you.
So thank you so much. And I'm sure you'll see these ladies again on Black Doctor. But tomorrow, again, I'll be back 6 o'clock tomorrow, 6 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Pacific. And it's September tomorrow. So
my birthday month. Yay.
Now, are you a Virgo or Libra?
Libra.
Okay. Oh, when? My son is a Libra.
The 24th.
He's the 29th.
So you're on the cusp. You almost were a Virgo.
Yeah.
That's why I like her, because she was just like. All righty then, everyone. Thank you so much, and have an awesome evening. And somehow I'm going to find my thing. Okay, it's getting a little crowded over here on my side. Okay, bye.